All right, what's up, everyone? It is Tyler with Team Let's Eat, part of bringing you guys the analysis of the week 16 through 22. And we got a few pairs this week, not too much because a lot of focus is going to be going on these pairs. They have really good moves coming. So that's just why I'm personally not trading a whole bunch this week. So we're going to start off with Bitcoin, and then we're going to dive into gold. I think two moves are going to be happening with gold, and one of them will be leaking on to next week. And then the pound yen, we should have a good move with the pound yen, right? So let's start with Bitcoin because that market is always open and live, and we are currently in positions already. So let's get into it. Starting off with the previous structure, what happened here. So I'm not going to break down this as much, but we sold from down here. The target was the low 40s. We closed that. And the past week, we can see price made this support right here, wick down all the way to 39.6 thousand, snap back up. And what I was actually looking for the entire time is price to hit 44,000 and reject. So I did not take the buy, but as you can see here, I got some marked up. So this will happen with Bitcoin and what I'm looking for this coming week. So as price came up into these levels, I specifically had this level marked here, which is 43.8 thousand. And as soon as price hit that level, I started paying really close attention to the overall flow and the structure of what's going on. So what I saw was this spike up here, and then we came down, then we kind of went sideways for a little bit. And then at one point, this was a huge bullish candle, and then it closed very bearish, right? A huge pin bar. Then we moved down a little bit. We respected this low. We came back up all the way past this high, and that's when I took entry and let everyone know. So on the 5-minute, let me zoom out and get up there. So I had this high marked, and my plan was I want to see one more spike because typically it happens in 3. So we got the 1, 2. I was waiting for the 3, and it pushed up, pushed up, pushed up. 5-minute, close with a wick. Second one, close with a wick. Started pushing down. That was when the entry took place. Okay, back to the 1 hour and refresh. Price push down pretty well. It broke this low right here, right? Obviously had some trouble at first, broke the low, and once it started stalling right here, we already, I think that's, yeah, like 200 something pips, or however you want to calculate that, in profit. So I closed a majority of the trade, and now we're looking for the second wave down to our full target, which is going to be 40.5, 39, and finally 37. I'll show you why in a minute. Let me delete this. So I'm going to 30-minute. So as it's pulling back, what I was looking for is I marked this high, and I'm looking for price to spike above that high, but not spike above these highs really, because if this is the area where the initial liquidity was provided, where everything dumped from, then from an institutional standpoint, if price is going to go down to these lows, it will not come back to this high. It'll stay below it because that's where all the institutions and the banks sold from, right? So they don't want to go negative. They're going to keep it lower. However, they will pull it back to get optimal entries. So that's exactly what happened. I had this area marked right here. Okay, so from this low to this high, I had marked. So let me go like this, because I was basically looking for price to pull up somewhere in the middle of this area, and it did. And as soon as price came up in here. You can see it didn't leave a wick, right? It was a full bullish and full bearish. So I didn't enter yet. Came back up and it left the wick. And as it started coming back down, second entry, or I guess a new additional entry taking place right there. Go back to the 30 minutes. And pulled back again earlier this evening, or excuse me, this morning. And I actually placed another lighter risk entry right here. So going forward, what I'm expecting is this level to hold. So I wouldn't mind or care if price came back to test this level. In fact, if it does and it starts rejecting, that is just going to be another entry I place. So basically, that's really all I'm looking for right now. Is I'm just sitting with my hands tied behind my back, and I'm basically just waiting to see what happens. So is price going to just slowly move down from here? Is it going to come back up and test this high? If it does, another entry and announcement will be made. I'll let everyone know if I enter again. But if it doesn't, then we're already in a position and it's just going to be slowly moving down. What I have noticed is over the course of the weekend, it kind of sets up for the move for during the week. So I'm not expecting any major moves to happen until Monday, Tuesday roll out. But until then, we could slowly move down, right? I'm not saying the market can't move during the weekend, right? But we could move down, or we could just accumulate and get those premium points of entry before the actual moves take place. So the reason why those are the targets, so these are obvious, right? Because these are the most recent support levels. As you can see, this week we actually tapped that. That was that wick down. So what I'm expecting is this week to be tapped out as well. Similar structure to what's going on here. See this huge bearish candle, then we stalled. The following week, we pushed down. Same here, bearish candle, we stalled, pushed down. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here. I'm expecting that push down, whether we close the week out with a wick, right? If we just tap this level, come back up, whether we close it completely bearish down here, that doesn't matter to me, because once we're down here, we're getting out of the trade, and then we will sit back and let the price, tell us what the next move is going to be. But that is exactly what I'm looking for. So you can see in the 4-hour, I'm expecting kind of something like this, right? Where we sold, right? So we had that, you could have the initial entry right here, which is in this instance would be right here. Then we pushed down, right? So we pushed down and then we pulled back, and over the weekend, we kind of got a few entries, right? So this was the first main entry right here, these two, either one of these wicks. And then you see how it pulled back, but it never came back to that high. That's because that's where the banks entered, and they don't want to have price, go higher and be in drawdown, right? So then it moves down, pulls back again, respects this level, right? Pulls back again one more time, and that's when the actual move happens. So that is kind of what I'm expecting going forward for Bitcoin this week, is we had that push down. This is that corrective structure. We got that entry right here. Got a second entry right on this line. And, I'm totally okay with price coming back up to that, get another entry, and just kind of play it by ear. And if price does tend to spike up, then, we'll be ready for it, and we'll place an entry to get the maximum benefit of the move going down. Because if you look at the overall flow and the structure, you can tell what the banks are doing is they push price up in order to drop it. And then they push it up again, and now we're going to drop it again. So not anything too deep or crazy. That's really all I'm expecting, is just a move down to these lows. Partials will be taken at these levels because there's a good chance that it's going to be hard to break unless we have movements like this, right? If price is just dropping heavily, then obviously we leave it alone. If it drops heavy through here, So we'll see what happens. That's it for Bitcoin. So moving on to gold. The past week was absolutely phenomenal for gold. If you guys remember in the last video, I had this low marked up. And actually 2 weeks ago now, I guess, NFP happened. We spiked, got the entry, right? Then the market closed. And this past week, we came down slightly, got another entry, and then it just exploded to these highs. What I'm expecting is the next full cycle of this move up into these highs, which I'll get to in a minute. Going to the 1 hour, what I'm expecting to see is price come down to 1810 at least, maybe a little bit lower than that, and then a full rally into the 1840s. Very similar pattern here. You see how I have this low. We can have the middle one, which is higher, and then we have the liquidity grab, which is lower than the first one, and then we move up. The reason I have this low here at 1810, because if we look left, first of all, it's a psychological level, 1810, it's very clear, and this wick right here. So price pushed, and then what did it do? It came back, grabbed those orders, and then it shot off. So that's why that level is placed. I guess I should say that's one of the reasons why that level is placed. And then we obviously have this low right here. So what I'm looking for is when price comes below this level, right, of 1812 and a half, when price gets below that, I'm expecting it to not stay down there that long. So I'll be watching the lower time frame, probably 10-minute, and I'm looking for price to push down here and then push out immediately, similar to like what happened here. So you can see price was dumping in order to push up. Even right here, price pushed up in order to dump down. So that's the type of movement I'm looking for, because when price is moving really fast like that, that's when the banks are, you know, they're entering and placing all their orders. When the market's really slow, they're not doing anything, or they didn't do any, they haven't done anything yet. Normally, you guys might know this already because I say it every week. Normally, gold tends to move around the New York open session. At least that's my strategy. That's how and when I tend to enter gold. I won't enter it during the Asian session. I won't enter it during London. I just wait for the morning, enter it for New York session. So that's when I'm expecting this to happen. Maybe tomorrow morning, maybe the morning after that. I'm not, you know, I can't foresee that, but that is exactly when is New York open. So going to the daily, the reason why these highs are the target is first, this high right here, these two highs right here have almost been hit, but they have not been hit. So I think they're going to be taken out. Now gold likes to move a lot, and we have a lot of people like to call this imbalance right here. See how this was never retested, this wick right here. So what I'm expecting is price to come all the way back up here. And then from there, I think we're going to get a major sell-off. Similar to this. Okay, this is exactly, hold on, I got to respond to this guy real quick. This is exactly what I'm looking for. See this move down? See how it came all the way back up, right? And it tested this. If I'm not going to draw a line there, but look at my horizontal line. Well, maybe you guys can't see that. I'm putting a line there. See this right here, right by my cursor, the low of this week right here? That is why I'm putting a line here. See how price pushed up into it, it wicked above it slightly, and then it absolutely dropped. That's what I'm expecting to happen, but on a smaller scale right here. So I'm expecting this week to come up, and whether we get the sell entry this week or if the sell entry is next week, that doesn't matter. But what I'm looking for is price to come up here and wick around this area, right? Maybe it wicks from right here and closes right here, and then sell off from that level down into these lows. right? So maybe even as low as 1722, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I do think this low will be taken out. My opinion, for instance, in the very long run of this market, if price is going to like breach all-time highs, I think first it's going to come down and grab these orders, and it would probably even take out these orders right here, because as you can see, March 8, we tapped 17, or excuse me, 1677. We came back to it. We came back to it again in August this year in one day, actually in 1 hour. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a Sunday market opened, and in 1 hour, the price of gold dropped to like literally like 800 pips in 30 minutes. And then over the course of the week, it went back up. It was pretty nuts. But there's a lot of orders down there, is what my point is. And I think if we are going to send it into these highs, we are going to come all the way back to these lows at first. First, this one, then this one, and then this one will be taken out if that is going to happen. So that's kind of my reasoning behind it. And just zooming in again, the short-term play, this is what I'm seeing, a move from 1810 to 1843. As soon as we get here, we're going to be closing and entering sell. And once we get the sell there, then we're just going to sit on our hands for a week or two and see how far price can move down. I think it's going to be something similar to this. So you see this huge move right here, this huge push to the downside. Before price does that, it has to set up. It has to like prepare almost, right? It has to accumulate, it has to grab orders, it has to get ready, and then it'll go do it. So that's what I'm expecting here. This phase that we're in, see how we're pushing down, and then it pushes up and it makes a high. Another one, third one, entries here, right? Boom. Comes back up, doesn't touch this high. Very similar to how I was breaking down Bitcoin, in which I mean, when the institutions enter and like that's the point, that's the actual highest pivot point, or lowest if you're going the other way, they won't allow price to come back to that high. And that's exactly what happened here. They dumped it and they retraced it to get another entry to this high, actually right here. And we actually shorted here. Didn't hold that long, but I do remember this sell. Came back up, enter again, and it drops. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right here. All right, I'm looking for, well, price already has moved down. I think we're going to move down a little bit more, because this next day candle is going to have a wick to the downside if it's going to be bullish. And I think that wick will, the end of that wick will be around 1810. So I think price is going to come down, make that wick for the daily, push up, close bullish, maybe the next day bullish, close with a wick, right? And then move down. I'm not going to try to sit here and forecast every day candle for the next 2 weeks, but you get the idea of what I'm looking at here. So spike down here, take a long position. Once we get up here, we're going to let the market prepare itself for the huge move to the downside. That's pretty much it with gold. Just to zoom out, right? Push up. This was actually the initial or the full target of the buy entry we had at 18 or 1784. We actually closed here because we pushed up, couldn't break it, pushed down again, pushed up, couldn't break it again. So I'm like, you know what? Take the money off the table. We'll have more opportunities. And that's what we're getting this week, is more opportunities. So I think we're going to get a buy entry down here and go from there. Lastly, we have the pound yen. So this week, I think the pound yen was pretty much setting up for, or excuse me, last week, I think the pound yen was pretty much setting up for this week. Let's go to the weekly. Looks so weird because I got all this stuff drawn everywhere. So let's look at the last time the pound yen moved to the downside. Price pushed up. Okay. Second week, pushed up again, like that, right? Third week, pushed up past the open of the previous week, and in between the open and the high. Then it closed down here back where the week opened, and then the next week it made the move. I'm expecting something similar to happen here over the next week or two. So we pushed up, and then we pushed up, pushed down, and we closed with a lot of rejection. So what I'm expecting is price to come down, push up to these highs between the open and the high, and then sell off from there. I am open to the idea of price coming higher than these highs, right? So I'm not going to rush a sell entry in between these levels, which we'll see a little bit better on the lower time frame. But for now, that's what I'm expecting is a wick just between these levels right here. Now, I'll show you why. With that being said, let's go to the daily. Take a guess on why those levels are where they are. The open of that daily and the high of that daily. That's where I think a price is going to go. Because this right here is the open of the week, right? So bringing it back real quick. This wick went between the open and the high of this week. Here's the open, here's the high of this week, right? I'm looking at the daily and I'm looking at, okay, what's the most recent though? And if I move up like this, that makes the space a little bit tighter and a little bit more accuracy. So that's what I'm expecting. Price to come up in here. I'm open, again, I'm open to the idea of it spiking above here, but if that happens, I think it's going to be really quick. Like it's going to be a very fast push up and a very fast push down. So if that happens, so be it. But speaking on like the foresight of it not happening, we're going to dive into the 4-hour. And you can see, actually, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to explain something before I get into that. So this push up, right? Let's see what happens here. So we had that initial high push. Okay. We create this level right here, this zone. See this wick that you can, it's kind of covered by the circles, right? Made this zone, pushed out, and it just left, right? It just took off. Then what happened is it pulled back, and I want you to know it didn't pull back and retest this and dump. It didn't pull back and retest this and dump. No, it pulled back to where all the orders are, which are how these wicks are made, similar to like the gold and the Bitcoin and everything. Pulled all the way back to where the orders are, and then it just took off without a retracement, right? Look how many times people sold here, including myself. I actually sold, I think I sold right here and right here because I'm multiple different reasons. But this flow is what I'm trying to get at. That's why I had this zone. You guys saw I deleted that zone when we were looking at the weekly. Here's where the orders are, is right here. Now I'm also aware of these right here and these, right? But I really don't think we're going to come up like way up here. It's possible, but I don't think we will. So what I'm looking at is, all right, how many pips is this from current price? That's 117 pips. That's a pretty decent amount of pips. Now, if we're going to come back up here, the next daily will probably close bullish, right? This isn't going to be like a 1-day thing, come up here and move down. It's probably going to be a 2-day, maybe a 3-day thing. With that being said, we know how daily candles work. We know how they have wicks on both ends when they move. That's what I'm expecting here. Go to the 10-minute, okay? Same concept as far as like the orders in the zone, right? Lots of orders right here. Obviously, we have the lows right here. What I'm expecting is price to come down and then push up and close the day bullish. or at least a doji. But honestly, I would expect price to close slightly bullish. So what I'm looking at in the short term, in an intraday level or like a scalp level, however you want to look at it, I'm looking to see pound yen come down here, most likely to this level, because that's 36 pips away. That's 34 pips away. So if we're going to maintain this low, go to the daily. See this huge wick? If we're not going to or how am I going to word this? If we're not going to break this and this candle is going to close bullish, we're not going to break this low. Kind of similar to what happened with these two candles. See how it came down the next day started, it made a wick and then it came up, right? If this day is going to close bullish, it won't take this low out. That's what I'm seeing here. I don't think we're going to take this low out, but I could see price moving down here. So I'm not super like keen or caring on getting in the buys if it doesn't come down here and do exactly what I'm foreseeing. But if it does, I'm definitely going to take that opportunity, because that is now 150 pips, which that's pretty good profit right there. 150 pips, you know, that's a solid trade. And once we get up here, very obviously, we're going to be looking for the sell. So close that buy, look for the sell. Stop loss is going to be probably 40 to 50 pips. In the instance that price does reverse here. Again, I just want to reiterate, I am open to the fact of price coming above this, but I don't think that will happen because of what I've been saying, like with Bitcoin and gold and everything. See how this is the high point, like that's where the sell-off happened. And then we have the rest of the orders, right? To me, like these are the high points. These are pretty much the same level. These are the high points. We'll push down. We can come back close to the high, but I don't think we'll tap it out. Just based off of what happened with this price action. So that's pretty much it for pound yen. So I'm expecting price to move down. And as long as we don't tap this low out, I'm going to be placing a buy entry, stop loss under this low, because again, I don't think we're going to tap it out. If we're going to move up like that, we shouldn't tap that out. If we do, it'd be like by a pip or two, and our stop loss would be like 10 pips away from it. So buying to the upside before the short. The short target is this structural low, as well as the fib, which is pretty dang close. So I personally, like when I take profit, I don't care about getting, you know, the move down to the exact pip. Like I start closing in this area, you know, that's all right. I'm okay with missing out on a couple pips, because this is going to be 400, almost 500 pips. So looking on the 1 hour, just to show you, see that? Double tap, boom, drops, right? This is actually perfect. Hold on, guys. Pay attention to the date. Well, I guess that doesn't matter as much. See the structure, see how we pushed down, came up, and look, let me zoom in here. See this wick? That's why that's why the zone is where it is. Came down to that area because that's where all the orders are. We bought it up into this area right here. That's where all the order, that's where the real, like the real move, the actual move that we're looking, which is to the downside. That's where all those orders are. So boom, buy here, A, B, okay, close it. This is A, boom, enter, B, down here, right? Same concept, guys. Same concept. So we'll see what happens. And I just want to point out, nothing is exact, right? See how I should have just kept it, but right, it came down, it wicked below it, right? It's kind of a weird structure. Same with up here, right? It's not perfect, but it's close. You know, it's close to it. So that's what I'm expecting here for pound yen this week. We should have two really good trades. Something like that, right? I'm going to delete the fib just to keep the chart as clean as possible. There's that. We'll run it back. Here's Bitcoin. Look, it's moving up right now. That's totally fine. So Bitcoin, I'm not expecting for a fact, if we're going to move down, we will not touch this high again. I'm not expecting price to break this high. But if it does, as long as it doesn't break this high, we're moving down for sure. But again, I'm just going to delete that actually. I'm not expecting price to break this, but you know, I can't predict the future either. But I know, but again, just to reiterate, I know for a fact, if we're moving down, we will not break this high. Gold, just real quick again, just to run through. Push up. And then a huge move down. So like right now, I'm just going to draw it out over here. Right, because this short, I'll remove this line right here. See this low right here? The take profit would be just below that. Look what happened. Right? So take profit's going to be just below that for one of them. The second one is going to be all the way down here, just below this. But I highly doubt it's just going to move straight down for that long. This a move all the way down here will probably result in a few different opportunities. But the first major move, I'm going to copy this right here. Copy that. Oops. Bring that over here. All right, the first major move down here will probably hold everything, no partials, no closing, nothing. After that, close a vast majority of the trade, if not all of it, and then wait for another opportunity. That's it for me. That's all I'm looking at. Pretty, you know, just paying attention, paying very close attention to just a few pairs. Bitcoin's a little bit more lax, but paying very close attention to pound yen because that's going to be two moves. And same with gold. That's going to be for sure one, this buy, but possibly two. We might enter this week. It might come next week. Probably make another video coming up with this on the fly. When price gets up here for gold, I'll probably hop on Zoom or make a video to send everyone. Just to reiterate what happened with this move. As long as this plays out like this, you know, if we get the buy, then we're looking for the sell. I'll make another video. Same with yen actually. That's it for me. I don't know if anyone else wanted to speak. Otherwise, we will get the ball rolling this week. All good? Cool, cool.